So we're ready to start measuring our print now, and we wanted to take a minute and remind you of a few things about rulers. First of all the rulers that are in the classroom are in inches, meaning that there are no centimeters here. So Mrs. Rubelo, if I wanted to pull out my calculator for this, can I use my calculator on my phone for adding?
No, Mrs. Miller. Calculators work in decimal points. You're going to be working in fractions.
Ugh. So, just wanted to remind you that when you're looking at the ruler up close, most of you are excellent on the half-inch mark. Some of you are good on the quarter-inch mark, and most of you then get a little bit lost when we move on to eighths or sixteenths. But these are the fractions that you're going to be dealing with, so no decimal points, no calculator is going to be helpful to you. You need to write out the fractions. So we just wanted to remind you when we're getting ready to do our measurements that if you weren't satisfied with any of the matting choices that you found in the classroom, the white choices you didn't like any of the color options that are there, you can always go out and purchase a piece of mat board. We would again stress that you take the artwork with you so that you can compare colors, but you could go to a Michael's, a Hobby Lobby, you could go to Dick Blick, and if you take the work with you, depending on where you go, there might actually be someone to help you make choices on the type of mat board and the color mat board. But you should always do what you want to do in terms of that because it's going to be your piece to take home. So I've got the Vincent van Gogh print here that we're going to measure, and I've pulled out a yardstick and a ruler. Now the yardsticks, as you know, are over by the paper towels, and for most artwork you're going to need one, but this is a smaller piece, so I'm just going to work with one of our 18-inch rulers. And when I go to measure, I'm going to line up the ruler along the left-hand edge of the print, right flush on the edge of my ruler and the edge of the print. And then I'm going to come over here to see what my measurement is. It's just 9 inches, very simple and straightforward, so I'm going to write that down over here on a scrap of paper. You could also write it in the margins of your artwork if you want to. And I thought I would mention to you, you'll notice I'm measuring just the work itself, not any of the border. I don't want that to show when I'm done with my matting, so I need to account for that now. My second measurement, I'm going to call the height of my piece. So we'll say that I'm measuring, the length already was 9 inches, and this will be the height. And when you do this, you could choose to use the 16th side of the ruler like I have here, or you could flip it around because like we said, both sides are inches, and you could use the 8th side. So that's a little more simple, and it doesn't really hurt anything to work with this more simple measurement. And so this measurement is not an exact whole inch. It's also not a half inch. So I'm going with eighths, and I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3 eighths. When you do measurements, if you're between, like if it's not lining up with an exact mark, you should always round down. Rounding down is going to cover a tiny bit more of the work itself, but it's not going to leave you any of your border showing, which again is not something you want. So my second measurement here is going to be 11 and 3/8, 3/8. Now that I have the measurements, I can be done with the ruler, and I can really be done working with the artwork as well. I'm going to take these two measurements and I'm going to calculate the perimeter of the mat that I need. If you remember, we've said that we're doing a traditional mat today, which means that we're going to do a 2-inch border the entire way around, the 2 sides and the top, and we're going to do a slightly larger mat border at the bottom of 2.5 inches. So if I take my 9 inches, I'm going to add 2 for the left-hand side and 2 for the right-hand side, or 4 inches, to end up with 13 inches. The 11 and 3/8, the height of my piece, I want to add 2 for the top and 2.5 for the bottom, or 4.5 total. This is the part where you need to work with your fractions, and so you're going to take this half inch here, and I'm just slowing it down for you so that you can think about all the steps in case this is challenging for you. I want to make it so that I can add the numerators of my fractions together. In order to do that, I need to have common denominators. So I'm going to change this into 4/8, which is again the same as 1/2. And then I'm going to add together so that I have 7/8. And over here I'll have 15. Some of you might find when you're doing your calculations like this that your numerator is actually larger than your denominator. Remember that that's a time when you need to pull out a whole number and plop it over here in the whole numbers section as opposed to leaving it in. But for me, this is now a finished problem, and the size of my perimeter is 13 by 15 and 7/8. This is my perimeter. And so again, at this point, I'm gonna put away my artwork and I'm gonna go find this piece of mat board that I want to work with.